And why do you say swallowed up? You see? People, poets, people who talk, swallowed by the grave, swallowed into space, disappeared into nothing, gone, vanished, into thin, thin air. Why is there an objection to this? Well, one's been taught to object. Because you've been taught to identify with the solid side of the picture and to disidentify with the empty side of the picture. But you've been hoaxed and fooled. Because you, when you die, are not, as it were, gulped up by thin air. You're just as much the thin air as anything else. It's all of a piece. It isn't a fight going on. But everything is represented as a fight. A contest between this side and that. But this is really the whole thing about illusion. Where the ordinary person sees a battle, the enlightened person sees a cooperation between two sides. Have you ever tried to play chess with yourself and honestly take each side as you play its move against the other one? Or to get two, those swords they have in bars they stick into olives in martinis. You get two of these swords and fence with yourself. And see if you really can stick it into one of your hands and have the other one defend it. This is the most fascinating game. And this is the game God is playing, sitting there. Two hands, here's good, here's evil. Here's Jesus Christ and here's Lucifer. And he's got real involved in this fight, you see. And he finds out that if he makes the right hand win all the time, there's no point in the game. He has to get into the left hand. But in order for there to be a real fight, he mustn't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing, vice versa, you see. He explains all this stuff in the Bible. But really, you see, underneath, the two hands, they join back here, like a kind of a horseshoe, or like the snake Ouroboros, which is always after his own tail. And an aspect of that, not letting your left hand know what your right hand is doing, is the way we identify ourselves with what's inside the skin and not with what's outside. We identify ourselves as reality with the solid things that we can see, and all the rest is space, and that's nothing, you see. We characteristically take sides in a situation where both sides are aspects of the situation. We take this side. Will you have this or that? Choose. But the sage doesn't choose. Because he said, well, there's no choice here. He might choose for the sake of going along. Like somebody says, well, what would you like to do today? We can go into town and do some marketing, or we can stay out here and go swimming. You don't care which you do. So you just say one in order to satisfy your guest, your host. So, then behind the explicit battle, there is the implicit agreement. Tweedledum and Tweedledee agreed to have a battle. We agree to differ if we want to have a sane social order. So, cheer up. You may well be so conditioned, just like to feel the fear of the unknown, even though you know much better. if you have come through in life to a point where, say, you have bad teeth through aging, or hardening eyeballs, when you get awakened and you get satori or anything, it won't make any difference to your teeth or your eyeballs. I have never heard of a case of the spiritual healing of somebody's teeth. So in rather a similar way, there will be certain emotional habits that you have that will be practically unchangeable. And they settle in as you get older, and you have to live with them. They're just like you have to live with the color of your hair, or whether you've got a funny shaped mouth or something like that. It's all goes along. It's part of the pattern that you're in for the time being and will live out. A lot of people go around judging other people and say, well, they think they've had some wonderful experience, but they are still sick in some way, as if that was reprehensible. Or they still lose their tempers a bit. One expects all these things to change emotional habits, poof, like that. One must get rid of that kind of the beaver Protestantism. So, but you know what does happen is, although you have fears, anxiety basically, in the face of life and death, nevertheless you can get to a point where it's like having a deep center which isn't anxious. And above all, isn't anxious about being anxious. You say, okay, so I get anxious. And somehow you can tolerate it. You can stand the tension. It's one of the most fascinating things to learn to hold tension. And not go, when you get a problem, not go rushing off to solve it immediately. Because most problems, when solved in a rush, are solved in the wrong way. Especially emotional problems between people. You have to stand, for example, not being liked. Is a terribly difficult thing for Americans. But what I've said here, I think, about space and about rebirth and so on, you will notice one thing about it all. It doesn't, nothing that I've said, or understanding anything that I've said, doesn't require any kind of what I would call special knowledge. It's all out in front of you. It doesn't require, actually, it doesn't require meditation exercises or LSD or anything. It's all out in the open. And the only really essential meditation exercise is stopping thinking. And the being able to perceive without conceptualizing what you're looking at. And that's the interior silence, without which, well, there is really nothing to think about or talk about, except thinking and talking.